Hey FragPunkers, I want to make a video of a few tips that I've picked up since the game was released. I feel in standard or in low-level rank games, there are a lot of players that don't know how sound works or how the economy works. So here are a few tips to help you frag better and win more games. The radar tells you a lot of information. So to start off, I wanted to show you my settings on the radar. The default minimap is great, but I feel like it is showing more information than you need. Especially when you're new to learning the map, it can be difficult to see where you are and where the enemies are coming from. In my opinion, what matters is your immediate surroundings, so having limited view can help with information accuracy. So I turn on Keep Player Centered, Minimap Size to 1, and the Zoom at 0.8. The last most important thing is changing map orientation to rotate. This way, pointing up is always the way you're facing. This can help where to look when enemies pop up on your radar or when placing grenades and smokes. Now let's get into the actual radar. Once your settings look like mine, there's a lot of visual cues that the radar shows. For one, when your allies spot enemies, the radar will ping it. So you can get just enough information on where enemies can be and if sights are wide open. The next most important thing is understanding the 3 types of movement. There are 3 types of movement speeds. There is a sprint, a run, and a walk. If you notice when sprinting, there's a white circle on your radar. When you sprint, it gets really big. Big enough that it covers almost a quarter of the map. This could be the difference of knowing if your opponents are rotating out of sights or having an exact location where your opponents can be pushing. The next speed is running. When running, the circle is a lot smaller and can really only be heard around corners. This is a good sign if you should challenge your opponents up close or sit back and let them run into your camping spot. Lastly, the walk has 0 sound. This is the most stealthy way to move around the map and should be used more. Here's an example of me using sprint early in the round. I do 1 or 2 dashes before I change to my walk speed. The reason is, if my opponents are pushing through lanes, I will hopefully hide my position and make my opponents guess. If I ran the whole way, my opponent could possibly reverse the role and they could sit back and wait for me to make a mistake. Here's another example of me choosing to run instead of sprinting. Even though this is a slower speed, I'm trusting my teammates will slow the opponents down just long enough for me to make a wrap while hiding my footsteps from being heard if someone was holding mid.
Left in the round.
I try not to challenge my opponents head on too much. If I can get them from behind and sandwich the team, this is way better than taking damage or worse, losing my one-on-ones. Another tip about the radar is that if you bring projectiles, you can see where the projectiles will land. As you can see here, I launched up some grenades where I think the opponent might sit around the box. Lucky for me, I get a few hit markers so I know my opponent is still around the corner and hasn't retreated or pushed up. The next tip is the gun economy and how it works. For each half, you can carry a primary twice for each gun type, assuming you die every round. If you do not die every round, you can carry that primary again without using your bank. For example, if I brought an SMG and died in rounds 1 and 2, then in round 3, I can't purchase an SMG again. Now, I can request for a teammate to give me the gun, but now I'm digging into my teammate's economy. In my opinion, if a teammate is requesting a gun, you should give it to them. But in some cases, I wouldn't give a teammate a gun if they're requesting a sniper and have lost every sniper battle. But that is a very case-by-case thing and would prefer if they went with a more reliable gun like an SMG or an assault rifle. Remember, this is a team game, so if they request a gun, you should try and assist them. I do want to point out, in standard, the economy doesn't really matter as much. But in ranked, when you're playing 5 rounds and a half, the economy plays more of a factor. So in ranked, say you're in a 1v3 and most likely can't win the round, it may be best to save your gun to preserve your gun economy. The next tip about the gun economy is the projectiles. You're allowed 8 projectiles on a half. As you see here, I bought a grenade launcher, dropped it, and then bought another one, thus allowing me 4 grenades to launch, weakening my opponents or getting enough information if the enemy team is pushing one side. Here's an example of me buying 2 sets of grenade launchers. I launch the grenades twice, then switch to another fresh set. I get no hit markers, so I guess it's safe to push up and begin my wrap. To keep myself a little hidden, I choose to run and not sprint. In case an opponent is pushing B short, I don't want to give away that I'm giving up B for free. Now, I want to show another example of the same strategy, but it backfires a little. I buy 2 sets of grenade launchers, launch the grenades, and get no hit markers. With the same mindset, I feel it's safe to push up. Unfortunately, I was wrong and took a fight at B main. But because I live to see another day, I play my life just a little bit longer, back up, and use my second set of grenades. Fortunately, I did 79 damage, so I feel I have a slight edge on my opponent and feel I can challenge and win the fight, which I do. The next tip I want to go over is crosshair settings. The default has a ton of different crosshairs that can be distracting or confusing depending on the gun. To keep things simple, I have opted to make my crosshair the same across all guns. So make sure to set your custom crosshair to apply to hipfire and sight crosshair. I also prefer to have the custom crosshair to be the same when I aim down sights. The last important thing about crosshair is making sure it is static. Having it on dynamic gives a bloom effect, which can be distracting. For the rest of the settings, I leave it up to you with color, size, and the type of crosshair. But if you want to replicate mine, pause the video now. Last tip about crosshair is crosshair placement. I see way too many players aren't putting their crosshairs in the right spot. You always want to be placing your crosshairs around corners where you think your opponent might be coming from. The reason for this is to allow the least amount of readjustment if the opponent's either slow peeks or quick peeks you. You always want to be ready to take the fight rather than trying to snap on them. And of course, just like any first-person shooter, always aim for the head. Hopefully these tips help. If you want to see more of them, let me know in the comments below. Good luck out there and keep fragging. Thanks for watching.